APIs and an open API ecosystem is really important. Most solutions in the marketplace today, you go to their websites, it says all in one. That's the marketing messaging. I've worked with hundreds of DSOs now across the last 5 years. I don't know a single one that runs one piece of software. There is no such thing as an all-in-one comprehensive solution. So it's a fallacy to even state that. In fact, when we hear all-in-one, we think it's somebody that doesn't understand the DSO space and is trying to say one size fits all, which is absolutely not the case.
Hello everyone, Brian Kaleo here with my co-host Matt McGaugh, and this is the DSO Technology Show. We're really happy. We've got another really awesome guest today. We've got Mike Huffaker, Chief Revenue Officer of Planet DDS, an organization I've spent a lot of time getting to know, and we're really exciting. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but primarily we're going to talk about modern day PMS systems. So Mike, welcome to the show. Glad you're here.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
I mean, let's go right into it. You know, we really are all about technology here, and I want to just kind of jump right into it. Take us a little bit, Mike, because there's a lot of people listening to this that maybe have not upgraded in any way their PMS system in a long time. They might still be what's called on-premises or on-prem or something like that. Can you take us through the evolution of what a modern day PMS system looks like in comparison to what they may have, you know, if they haven't upgraded it in a long, long time?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, I think a lot of people remember paper charts, nothing digitized, before even x-rays became digital. And there was this natural progression where these tools came out, practice management solutions, largely driven by some of the big suppliers in the space that made it easier to run your business on. They allowed for you to run your business, but they didn't necessarily help you run your business. And so they were built with individual practices in mind. The initial construction of them was designed to really focus on the workflows that took place within an office. And then, DSOs came along, and DSOs didn't really have much of a choice for a long time as to what type of technology solutions they used for practice management. They had to cobble together fragmented solutions across a multitude of systems that offered very poor visibility, unreliable data, big challenges in change management, the inability to create operational consistency across your entire organization. Then cloud systems started to come along. Now, the cloud systems offer you a tremendous amount of oversight, easier access, less of an IT burden, though there's still a strong argument to be made for having servers in the practice for password management and management of other tools across all of your workstations. But the new modern solutions have really leaned into not just allowing you to run your business, but really helping you run your business. They are a much more comprehensive feature set. Most people using server-based solutions have to build a really large tech stack on top of it to get done what they need to get done. And the new cloud solutions help alleviate some of that for them.
Well, let me ask you this question. What are the vulnerabilities or the downside? Because I get this question a lot, and I'm glad I have you here to answer it today. Hey, what we have now, it might be dated, but it's working okay for us. Why do we need to change, or why would we consider change? Can you address some of the potential issues or vulnerabilities of old, outdated systems?
Yeah, well, not even just old outdated systems, but some of the cloud solutions in the market too. And so I think depending on the type of organization you are and what your needs are, there can be a multitude of solutions out there in the marketplace for you. What we've done that is different at Planet DDS is we've really focused on the engine. And so right now today, there's a lot of pretty cars. And there's a lot of new features, bells and whistles. Every single week, somebody's coming out with a new release. But if you pop open the hood and you look at the engine itself, you have to ask yourself, is this equipped to take me and my business where I want to go? And that really depends on what your aspirations are. So when we get into larger DSOs, 20 plus locations, there's a whole slew of things that you really have to be concerned about, not the least of which is security. And so when we built Denicon, and what we've done with Planet DDS is we've built a commercial jetliner. If you think about a commercial jetliner, it has multiple engines. If one of them blows out while you're in the air, it's going to be scary as heck, but you're still going to end up landing safely. Most solutions out there today are like single engine Cessnas. They can carry a few passengers or a few practices, but they're not really built to scale or to grow. And so I think the risks that people have is, there's been more data security breaches taking place over the past 5-10 years than I've ever seen before. A lot of them from server-based solutions, but also from cloud as well. And I'm not going to sit here and say that it is impossible for anybody to suffer from that, because people are getting very creative out there. But what you need are solutions that have all of the security and compliance certifications. They're SOC 2 Type 2 certified, which Planet DDS is the only one currently today that has that across our entire.
What does that mean? Okay, I've heard that term over and over again. Will you explain for people that I don't know? A lot of people probably don't know what that means. What does that mean?
It means that you've gone through an incredibly rigorous evaluation, not just of the software itself, but of your organization, meaning that you do things the right way. They do pen security testing. There's evaluation of your security posture and your cloud infrastructure and how you're set up and how you're constructed. It's ensuring that you have the proper controls in place within your actual organization, where you have, clean desktop policies in place, where you don't leave your computer with things open where anybody can jump in and kind of access information that they shouldn't have access to, where you even have access controls to your office and on site with the property. It's very, very in-depth. And it's a very challenging process to go through. It requires a whole long checklist of items that need to be checked off. And it means that you're not doing it at any one moment in time, but you're also doing it over an extended period of time. So you've proven reliability, not just while the auditor's there, but over a very long span of time. And there's a number of different certifications, but SOC 2 Type 2 is effectively the gold standard in the industry right now. There's one other solution in the marketplace that has it. There's a few that have ISO 27001, which is also a standard, but not quite at the same level of rigor that SOC 2 Type 2 is. And so it gives you comfort, rather than having to do this like in-depth analysis of whether or not this organization adheres to the proper security protocols, that there's been an outside auditor validating that it actually does adhere to those protocols.
So I don't just take your word for it. You've been certified by, an outside sort of agency that kind of does this.
Yeah, we can actually provide prospects or clients with the attestation of compliance, where they can look through it themselves, where it identifies, how we do things, how it's laid out, and gives somebody peace of mind that they are going to be in the most secure environment that is possible. Now, where a lot of breaches happen these days is from individuals within an office, password sharing, people clicking on links they're not supposed to, phishing attempts, things like that. You're still at risk for that, which is why DSOs and groups have an obligation to train their teams on proper security protocol. But at least within our solution, with all of the different things that are happening, hacker attempts, everything else, you can rest assured that we have put in place the best protocols possible to protect against that.
So Matt, I want to get into some functionality here of the product. Planet DDS's product is called Denicon. I think I should have maybe said that earlier, made that clear. Matt, I want to get into some functionality stuff. I know you've studied this, so maybe I know you've got some questions also.
Yeah, I was going to say too, Mike, that you said the past 5-10 years, there's been some stuff that's happened over the past 5-10 weeks that
there is. Yes.
There have been some breaches across the DSO industry, which is crazy to see. What about like SOC 2? That's important, right? But if you're talking to a DSO, like what are some other things that they should look at when they're evaluating PMS platforms? And also on the to Brian, your point about the technology specifically, what I like about you guys right now is you're talking about yourselves as like the dental operating system, which is you realize that you are the hub for all things within a dental practice, within a DSO. And there's a lot of point solutions that are on the market that do really good things, and you realize that maybe that's not our wheelhouse. Like, what's your theory on the integrations of the other solutions and your partners in the market? And how do you determine from a security perspective, since we're chatting about that, like who you work with, what that looks like? Do they have to be SOC 2? Like, how does that all work together?
Yeah, great question. So let me start with the first one about other things that people should be considering when they're, looking for a solution for their group. So we talked about the security piece. There's also the infrastructure piece. It's like, what is your cloud positioning? Most solutions in the marketplace don't have an active multi-region cloud architecture, which means if something goes down, you're down. And unfortunately, the entire world lives on either Azure or AWS or GCP, which is the Google Cloud product. And all of those within specific regions, normally the entire thing doesn't go down, but you might have a region that goes down for some period of time. The way that we've constructed is the active means that we have our entire database redundant in multiple regions in the cloud, which is a very expensive way of doing things, but we recognize that this is mission critical software, and when it goes down, your practices can't practice. Your patients can't be seen, they can't be treated, and there's a huge dollar cost associated with that. So it allows us to have incredible availability where the system is always on, and if there were to be something happened, we have that redundancy because of the active multi-region. So that's the first piece after the security. And then the next element is actually enterprise controls. So because we built our solution to be a commercial jetliner from day one, we were always thinking about what are the needs to run a business at scale across many offices. Because many other solutions were built for an individual practice. When they try to go up market and serve the needs of a 20, 30, 40, 50, or a 300 location DSO, they don't have those controls in place. So we think of them as enterprise controls. It includes everything from centralized fee schedule management, from hierarchical insurance rules engine, from enterprise locked procedure codes on a per practice level to ensure you have the governance for accurate data across all of your offices. It's granular roles and permissions. It's locking down and closing months out properly so your data doesn't change over time. It's having MFA and SSO so that you actually have that additional security level within your practice. So it's a very expansive set of governance that allows for the peace of mind and the control over your organization that needs to be implemented. And that's what, when I talk about looking under the hood, that's where a lot of solutions in the marketplace are missing. They're focused on like, can we do ambient listening? It's like, okay, well, that's great, but is your estimation engine correct where the patient balance is going to be estimated as accurately as possible so that you don't have this large remaining balance when the claim comes back? And when you look at a dental practice, nothing is in a silo, right? It's an entire journey, both from a patient journey and from a clinical journey, and everything ties together, and that's all part of that engine piece that you need to look at. Now, to the integration side, APIs and an open API ecosystem is really important. Most solutions in the marketplace today, you go to their websites, it says all in one. That's the marketing messaging. I've worked with hundreds of DSOs now across the last 5 years. I don't know a single one that runs one piece of software. There is no such thing as an all-in-one comprehensive solution. So it's a fallacy to even state that. In fact, when we hear all-in-one, we think it's somebody that doesn't understand the DSO space and is trying to say one size fits all, which is absolutely not the case. And so you need to have flexibility of choice as an organization to use best-in-class solutions at your discretion that are available in the marketplace that tie in well to your practice management solution, not these fragmented integrations, multiple windows all the time, poor communication back and forth. And so we have an approved partner ecosystem, an approved partner marketplace. No, they don't all have to be SOC 2, but they do have to go through our own internal security audit in order to become an approved partner in that ecosystem, because there's reputational damage at stake for us. Even if a breach occurs through a third party, everyone's gonna say, oh, well, they use Denicon or they use Cloud9. And so we're very protective of that, while at the same time wanting to offer that flexibility of choice for organizations to use what's available today and all the stuff that we don't even know that's going to be available in the future. So you need to have something that future-proofs your ability to run your business to the best of your ability.
Well, I mean, something that I think you're describing, I want to break it down a little more simpler, is your platform, Denicon, can support unlimited expansion, is what I'm hearing.
Correct.
Meaning, if I got 30 offices today, but I might grow to 200, there's not going to be an issue. You're going to be able to scale
Correct.
that. If I want to grow to 500 from 200, that's not going to be an issue with your platform.
Correct. Right now, today, as things sit, it's the only solution proven at scale in the marketplace. And what do I mean by proven at scale? Because I'm going to make people angry, and they're going to be like, wait, we have DSO customers too. Yes, that is correct. There are other solutions that DSOs use. We have 17 DSOs, over 100 locations that have implemented, rolled out, and been successful with our solution. The next closest cloud product is at roughly 3. And so there's something to be said for social proof and an understanding that you can't outgrow Denicon, and it's been proven to be the case.
Well, what happens, Mike, and I want to get a little granular here, what happens if, I'm a DSO and I have 30 or 40 offices and I sign up, with a platform that really is not suitable to scale up to hundreds, and now, let's say I got 30, now I got 50, now I got 70, now I got 80. What is going to start happening?
There's a lot of different things that could happen. One thing that I hear, that I've heard from a couple groups that we actually lost that made a different decision, is they came back and they said, you know what, we're losing confidence with our providers because the data changes over time. You go back and you try to run reports of things that happened 3 or 4 months prior, and it no longer reflects correctly. You try to tie out one report to another, and the information is incorrect. And so that goes back to that engine piece and the data integrity piece. And things start to break at scale. And when you are looking at it across an entire organization, you can't lose credibility with your doctors. Like, that's a terrible outcome to have. And so there's that could happen. There's the inability to control things. You start to realize that you're doing more work than you did before because they don't have those enterprise controls in place where you can assign out insurance plans to multiple practices and providers without having to enter them every single time in every single location, where you have the ability to manage your workforce, which becomes very untenable at scale with hundreds or thousands of employees where there's a lot of turnover. Like, how are you ensuring that they don't still have access to your system when they leave? How are you managing what their setup is, what they can do inside the software? And so there's all of these things that start to crumble at scale if you're not using a true enterprise solution that a lot of people don't really put a whole lot of thought into because they're like, well, the odonogram's pretty. I really like that. I should use this software.
What about just talk to standardization as a whole? Brian is must-see TV at all of his quarterly events, and obviously the main event talking about DSOs transacting, right, and how the M&A markets are set. I've seen over the past couple of years, a lot of these DSOs that are transacting are standardized. Do you have conversations with DSO executives about how that impacts their enterprise evaluation of their business? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. I would never state that we will meaningfully impact what the valuation is. You have to run a good business. But I will say it's easier to run a good business if you are standardized. And for an investor that's coming in, the ability to trust the data and have oversight and access to all of it easily is incredibly powerful. And I think to other industries outside of dental, and I don't know how dental ever thought that it was this great idea, other than it was facilitating easier M&A when you would tell a practice that, quote unquote, nothing would change, even though something always changes. But if you look at any other industry, you look at restaurant, hospitality, it doesn't matter. Nobody at scale uses a multitude of different solutions. It's an untenable position to be in to adequately run a really strong business. And so dental seems to be largely coming around in large part to efforts by, Brian and others who have spoken to the need to have a really strong foundation for growth and for scale. But it's absolutely a conversation that takes place. We've seen an acceleration of fragmented environment DSOs seeking to standardize on an enterprise cloud solution, and the appreciation and recognition of the value that drives to implementing operational rigor to doing consistent chart audits to having a real grasp on what the heck is happening inside your organization has really come around a lot over the past few years.
No, I mean, you're going to be more valuable standardized. There's no question about that. I have said that before. I will say that again. When a buyer's looking at an organization, if you're fragmented, you're going to be less valuable than if you're standardized. We know that. Now, Mike is right. There's not any one solution that we can point to that, you know, if you've got this solution, you're more valuable than that. But you have to be standardized. And talk a little bit about how that might work, Mike. If you're a DSO organization right now and you've got 3 or 4 PMS solutions, what would the process be like to standardize onto Denicon?
Sure. So it is a process, and we're very transparent in the buying.
If you got 4 PMS systems, one group's going to be super happy because they're already on Denicon, and then 3 are going to have to rock their world, right?
Yes. Yeah. It is a testament to the fortitude, or it is a test of the fortitude of leadership within DSOs, their ability to implement a solution at scale and usher in their organization through the change management required, communicate effectively, and get buy-in across the organization, and make the proper investments during that process as well to ensure that it's successful. So this is not something to cut corners on. It needs to be done right the first time. You don't want to do it again. But you also need to be very transparent with the organization about what the benefits are for the individual practices as well as the organization itself, why it's happening. And then you need to be very diligent in not allowing it to get off track, which is probably the largest challenge that I think people face, because it can create a lot of noise in individual practices while that implementation happens. The process involves initial kickoff conversations, mapping workflows, understanding how you work today, how it's going to look in the new system, creating proper documentation. One of the biggest challenges people face is that if you're on a fragmented ecosystem, you've never put the thought into what your standard operating procedures are, because you have to have standard operating procedures that tie into the technology that you're using. So many of these groups have to create them for the first time. They've never had them. And so that creates an additional layer of complexity during the process. There's the data conversion. Who knows how individual practices are using their existing PMS solution? They use fields that should be really easy to map to a new field and a new solution for the completely wrong reasons. So the data gets moved into the incorrect location, and it has to be audited and mapped and redone again. So there's always a trial and then a final. But we've seen people be incredibly successful. I'll give a shout out to Interdent. They did 160 practices in 12 months. And Park Dental, which recently had their IPO, they did 70 offices over a weekend. We'd never done that before. We did all 70 in a single weekend for
Rip the Band-Aid off all at once.
Rip the entire Band-Aid off all at once. And so, but they had an amazing support structure put in place. They had all the FAQs ready. Everybody was all hands on deck to ensure that the individual practices were supported in the change and could get the answers that they needed. And so we've seen people be incredibly successful with it. We've seen also folks that take years and years to roll out 25 practices, because every time that there's a hiccup, rather than just kind of pushing through that challenge and getting the buy-in, it's like, well, maybe we should pause and we should wait. So that's why I say it's a testament to the fortitude of leadership. And it, I think, shows strong leadership when organizations have the ability to implement at scale in a relatively short period of time.
How hard is this part? Like, I feel like we could do an entire day on this alone, right? Like, how hard, and you guys, I think Brian definitely has been around long enough, and I've been around long enough to remember when you were new.
Yeah.
And you were probably trying to figure out a lot of this.
Yeah.
But how long is it? You feel good about your implementation, your integration experience, and how long is it taken to really get you to a place where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also something to contemplate if you're in the market for practice management software. How able is the organization that you're working with to support your enterprise rollout? If you don't do it, it's a completely different motion than just implementing single independent practices over and over again. There's a lot of heavy lift at the outset with the setup and configuration that then ends up providing the foundation for how you onboard all the future offices. So we've gotten much better at it. I think we actually are pretty darn good at it at this point. However, we also always look for ways to improve and to continue to advance, making it easier for our customers. Because it's a challenging thing. And here's maybe an illustration of how challenging that it can be. If we get 10 groups in our pipeline that our team is looking to work with, walking them through a buying process, I can tell you that we will close 6 out of those 10. That's been our rate now for the past 3 or 4 years. So I feel supremely confident that we'll close 6 out of 10. 3 out of the 10 won't do anything. So we don't lose them to a competitor. We lose them to inertia due to the fear of the process and the change management and the internal pushback that you get even prior to embarking upon that project. When we remove the folks that don't move because of inertia, we close 9 out of 10 deals over 20 offices when they're actually shopping us in comparison to other solutions. So my perspective is if we could make it where we snap our fingers and somebody was trained up, understood how to work the solution at scale across all practices with clean data being converted without all of the hiccups that happen, that everybody would do this. But that is the biggest roadblock that people have, and people are, very afraid of that process and business disruption. It also ties into when people want to do a recap or a process. They have this notion that if our same-store growth is disrupted at all, which it sometimes can be, but not for the reasons that you think. Oftentimes the reasons that it is because doctor hours go down post a conversion. The dentists don't like being around the office when they're frustrated with, the need to make this process go through, and hearing members of their team kind of complain about their world being turned upside down. And so it's not always for the reasons that you think, that there's, that dip that people perceive in production, but it's very short-lived. And in fact, on the other side of it, the light at the end of the tunnel is significant improvement. So, but it is a challenge.
Mike, I had the privilege a couple weeks ago of attending the Orbitz meeting in Phoenix, Scottsdale area, where Planet DDS was showcasing everything to come with Denicon and what the future is going to look like. We got a few minutes here before we wrap up. Can you just hit the highlights of what the future holds for Denicon and some of the things that I saw during that presentation at the meeting?
Yeah. So we are uniquely positioned to continue to innovate because we have that strong engine already running. So we're not having to go back and fix these things to allow for scale of the platform. So there's a lot of really, really exciting, cool things that we're doing. One of them that I'm really excited about, we're calling it the Dental OS Desktop. And so it will effectively be a command center for DSOs, where in a single pane of glass with a SSO, you log into a screen, you have access to any of the core products from us that you use, like Denicon or Cloud9, but you also have access to any third-party integrations that you use. You have the third-party marketplace that you can look at and shop for potential solutions to problems that you're facing with our approved vendor partners. You'll have the agentic marketplace in there where you can hire agents on demand as needed for certain functions, for whatever practices you want them to be, with a high degree of control. There is implementation process overview for those that are in the implementation process still, that gives complete visibility into what's happening, where things are going, and how they're progressing. And so this is a relatively, it's a new concept in dental to have this. So I'm really excited about that. The other piece we're doing is what we call RCM Hub, which right now you work RCM in many cases out of multiple different screens within your PMS solution, and oftentimes with no ability to do it at scale across multiple practices. And so the RCM Hub allows you to actually, have you ever seen, I'm sure you guys have, somebody will do an earnings report, it'll be Google or somebody, and they'll do like the waterfall graph that shows where all the revenue comes from. And it's like these really pretty things that show like, here's where this goes, here's where that goes. Well, we'll be presenting that from the RCM side of things, where dental practices and organizations will have such visibility into where every dollar is going or not going. And then you can actually work out of that solution and out of that hub. It'll be workflow management for RCM functionality, which will be incredibly beneficial to central billing offices and groups at scale that are taking the RCM burden off of the individual practices. And that's a really exciting one. And then we're building additional connectors in between our core products, Denicon and Cloud9. We acquired Cloud9 a while back. We saw that there was a real need for, in large part, pediatric and ortho practices where they were having to make do with some hodgepodge solution where they're putting in all their ortho patients in all caps and there's no really adequate treatment card, or they're using multiple different solutions. And so we're tying it together where it's, it's still the single patient record. You're able to have really strong visibility in either solutions. Data transmits between both, and RCM is rationalized across your practice and your organization. So those are some of the things we're doing. The agentic piece is super exciting, of course, but we've completely reconfigured our engineering team over the past 6 months to take advantage of the ability to accelerate growth through AI tools. And so we're really at the cutting edge of leveraging AI in order to expand our innovation in a very quick period of time. So it will be releasing our Planet DDS Presents, which is the presentation that you saw at Orbit, Brian, for the public to view. And everybody will be able to have an opportunity to watch the 45-minute presentation and get a real clear understanding of what the vision is and where we're going.
Well, I really enjoyed that presentation. It was really eye-opening for me. There were some really incredible new things sort of coming out, so I'm glad you're releasing that to the public. So, Mike, this is the key part of the whole show. We're just about done here. Matt, what's your verdict on Denicon?
I already had a verdict on Denicon coming into this. Mike knows my verdict. The fact that, number one, I learned a little bit more about security and compliance from the Denicon side of things. That's important right now. I think that's something folks that are listening now need to make sure they get their handle on in this environment. That's first things first. The fact that you're realizing that you're the operating system, but also working with partners is great to me, because there's a lot of really cool companies out there that are doing great things. And the last part, we should probably dig in another day, Mike, is the agentic stuff that you guys are doing. I think if you can nail that, that's going to be a really interesting unlock for you, and it's going to allow dental practices and DSOs to really work more efficiently with their teams. So that's super exciting. And I did see the 45-minute presentation. Chris shared that with me.
Oh, nice.
And I got the update since I wasn't able to attend Orbit. So I'm really excited about you guys and how you're working your business, how the messaging is coming out into the market. People like Beth Gaddis are out there killing it as well. So yeah, absolutely. I don't know, Siskel and Ebert, Brian.
No, that was a long-winded thumbs up. We were looking for the thumbs up. You went on a lot longer than I thought, but you got the thumbs up. That's really, really good. And, it's no secret. I love the Denicon product. There's a lot of exciting things. And, what I tell the DSOs is you've got to be built for unlimited expansion. You've got to have a platform that can support unlimited expansion. You've got to have a platform, I think, that's cloud-based, that is going to provide the security you need, because we've had a lot of security incidences, lately. And you got to be standardized. And, Denicon checks all those boxes with me. And it's a pretty good team to work with over there. Everybody's super friendly and helpful. So, Mike, it was our pleasure to have you on the show, to be able to highlight a little bit of the technology for those that are maybe contemplating, what their next move with a PMS system is going to be. So, Mike, just give us a last word as we wrap up here.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the comments from both of you. And Brian, thank you for calling out the people. It's something that I didn't mention, but behind the technology are obviously humans, right? And it's one thing that we take a lot of pride in our organization, is having individuals that actually care deeply about the outcomes that our customers have, from our account management team, new business sales, product, engineering. And so, as a revenue team and as the CRO of the company, I have two things that I get to distribute. I get to distribute our awesome product, but I also get to distribute our brand. And the people behind the company are a big part of the perception of our brand in the marketplace. And you want to make sure that not only is the technology great, but you have the people there to take care of you as you implement it.
Well, I appreciate your time, Mike. Thanks for being here. On behalf of me, Brian Kaleo, Matt McGaw, this has been the DSO Technology Show, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.